Everyone, if you wouldn't mind standing with council for an opening prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, during this time of great stress and uncertainty, we ask that we always lean upon you. We ask that you will always lead and guide us and direct us to make the right choices. We ask that we always look after those who are in our company that would need help, look after our neighbor who is in need, make sure that we always spread Christian love wherever we can. These things we pray in thy name. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining us this evening. Council does have an agenda. The chair would ask if there's any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
Mr. Pack, I have 3 items to add to the agenda. Under County Manager's Report, a letter of support for Habitat Chop Tank and emergency procurement of vacuum pumps for Martingham, and a contract with Whiting Turner for Easton Elementary School jobs.
Okay. Those are all on the county manager, so I'm not going to write them down. I know Mr. Hollis probably has that list, so when I turn to the county manager, he'll add those on. Need to get a second for the addition to the agenda as expressed by Mr. Lesher.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeVillio. Any further comments? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the additional items to the agenda on the county manager.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
We're having a hard time connecting Ms. Price at the moment. We're working on it.
Okay.
We have a majority then, and Mr. Holliston, when that time comes up, you'll just...
That's fine. If we could just take a minute, the callers who didn't have visual access previously had asked that each council member identify themselves so they know who's present in the room. I think we just accomplished that, but if I'm going to just go through, we have Frank DeVillio, Chuck Callahan, Corey Pack, Pete Lesher in the room, and Laura Price is hopefully very soon going to be on it by telephone.
Okay. And Mr. Hollis, thank you very much for pointing that out to the listeners. Let me go over these list of instructions to our audience, so to make sure that everyone is able to view us or listen to us or call in to us. And we do have a couple items on a public hearing this evening. If you want to participate in this meeting, you would need to call 415-655-002, or you can also dial 855-797-9485. That's a toll-free call. You are then going to enter the access number 160-161-5476. Okay. You can also reach us on WebEx events. That's talbotcounty.webexevents.com /TalbotCounty /on-stage. And you're going to enter event number, again, 160-161-5476. The password is 082520. So a number of ways you can reach us via telephone or WebEx events. We're also on YouTube.com. That is being provided by Miss Shore Community Television, so you can also watch us there as well.
And Mr. President, Ms. Price has indicated that I wasn't audible, so I'm going to try this one more time. Do it identify the council members.
Sure,
in the room.
Mr. Hollis, have a go at it again.
Which are Mr. Frank DeVillio, Mr. Chuck Callahan, Mr. Corey Pack, and Mr. Pete Lesher. And by telephone, soon, if not already, is Councilwoman Laura Price. Here, do we have Councilwoman Price on, do you know? Okay, doke, so we're getting there.
Okay. So if I need to, Mr. Callahan will remind me to go through those numbers again at public hearing. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a unanimous decision. Council, you also have on your agenda minutes from June the 23rd. Should have had a chance to look at those. Did we have any additions or deletions to those minutes? Here, none, the chair would accept those minutes with unanimous consent. Council, you have disbursements from August the 18th and August the 25th. Should have had a chance to review those. Speak to Ms. Lane with any questions. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those disbursements? Hearing none, the chair would also move that they be entered by unanimous consent. Okay, next on our agenda is an update, preparation for our 2020 general elections. We have Ms. Jeri Cook here, who's our elections director. Also, we have here with us Mr. Joe Secrist. He's the president of our Talbot County Board of Elections. And any other members, I believe Mr. Black is also here, if he cares to come up as well, who's also a member of our elections board. So we want to thank her. Jeri, you're on crutches. What's going on? You got a couple of busy months ahead of you now, Jeri.
It happens. It's slowed me down. Anybody else?
Are we good? Okay. Well, Jeri, Joe, good to see both of you. I know your office has probably been very busy over there this last couple of weeks or months, I should say, and going to get even busier heading down the stretch here. So, Jeri, I'm going to turn it over to you for your update. Joe, good to see you as well.
Okay, so I'm going to take this down.
Jeri, that's fine. You're going to have to, yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so just to let everybody know, in case they have not heard, the early voting dates have changed. They are Monday, October 26th.
Hold on, Jeri, 1 second. Does she need to hold that button while she's speaking? Okay, you got to keep your finger on. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's some alcohol there too as well, Jeri, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay, I'm pushing.
You got to hold it while you're speaking. Just, yeah, like a handheld walkie-talkie. There you go.
Okay, so early voting will take place from Monday, October 26th through Monday, November 2nd. It will be from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. And then Election Day will take place on Tuesday, November 3rd. And again, it's at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. This time, the State Board of Elections, because of the problems throughout the state and throughout the country about with the pandemic, they agreed to use voting centers instead of individual precincts. So at early voting, it will be the normal, it will be the Easton Firehouse. And then on Election Day, per the approval of the State Board, our local board has already approved this, but the State Board will hopefully do it on Friday. Easton Volunteer Fire Department, Easton High School Cafeteria, St. Michael's Middle and High Gymnasium, and Tillman Volunteer Fire Department. So those will be our 4 vote centers for Election Day.
Jeri, I know first, you need to speak very close to the microphone. People aren't hearing that.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so do I need to go back or? Okay. So I will go back to another thing, but I wanted to address the election judges. In Talbot County, we have been very fortunate. We have had about 100 people that have notified the state board, the state, that they are interested in serving as election judges. And we have sent interest forms to each and every one of them. But we have to always keep in mind that we have to keep it party balanced. We have to make sure that, we have the coverage throughout, so we never know how many people are going to drop. Because of times like they are right now, we are just not, it's always better to have too many than not enough. So right now we're in the process of beginning our training dates and assignments. So people they do get that initial interest form, but we need to make sure that we've got the coverage. We're building that with those 4 centers as well as our early voting center. And we just need to, it's a slow process because we've only got 3 in our office, or 2 actually, who are doing this job. And they're not only doing the election judges, but they're also doing the mail-in ballots that are coming in, the applications, as well as just daily work. So it's not a matter of we're not interested in our folks that have reached out to us. We are extremely happy that so many people are interested in being election judges. But we also are holding our trainings up until almost election or early voting begins, which is unusual for us. We usually end our trainings several weeks ahead of time so that we can have time to prepare for the early vote for the election. We are keeping it going until that week before because we don't know who may drop and who may continue as an election judge. So we want to make sure that we have enough people and we can train them and get them ready because by law they have to be trained in order to work as an election judge. Also, just as a side note, we are working with the emergency management. Geneva and I met this past week, and we are going to work on, as we did for the primary, the security, which we didn't need because of the things that had changed. But we're working on security measures for those 4 vote centers as well as early voting. So we're working in tandem with them and the sheriff's office. So the changes, we have the additional need for the social distancing as well as keeping the polling place as sanitized as possible, which that right there is going to be additional election judges that we're going to need to make sure that those things are taken care of throughout the polling place. Staff will be working to process mail-in applications as well as the ballots when they begin arriving, and this could cause additional overtime because we've got almost 28,000 voters in Talbot County, and that, we're figuring an 85% turnout, which could be possibly that we get 20,000 voters that decide that they want to use the mail-in ballot. So we've got that to. These are such unprecedented times, we're really not sure because we don't have anything to compare it with, that we are trying to make sure that we have everything covered as best as possible. We will have our drop boxes, just like we had in the primary. There will be one at our office at 215 Bay Street, and the other one will be at Easton Firehouse. And they will, the plan is to have them in place about the same time that the voters will be getting their ballots, which is around the 1st of October, the first week in October. And they will be security measures as well as we will be going and retrieving the ballots daily, several times a day. So we will be working with the Sheriff's Office or Easton Police Department, so we can also have additional security. So that's part of it too. This time we are doing precinct-based reporting, which I'm going to get Joe to explain a little bit, but I wanted to kind of touch on it. We're going to have 23 ballot styles in this county. So we are going to need something that is a secure way to keep those 23 ballot styles in the vote centers as well as at early voting. And the nice thing is the county always, whenever I ask, they always seem to come to my aid. And I've been working with Brian Moore, a container to securely keep those in place is quite expensive. And Brian has looked at some of the black carts that we use for most elections, and he has figured out a way that we can work these ballots to be secured as well as the cost will be kept down for the county. So I am very, very thankful that Brian has helped us out with this. So we're looking forward to how he decides. I mean, his folks are really good at that stuff, and I'm just leaving it. He knows what I need, and he said he could do it. So that's what I'm waiting for. The mail-in applications they were supposed to start going out today, so that's my assumption. So the voters in this county should start seeing them within the next 2 to 5 days. So once they get those, we just ask that people send them back as quickly as possible. It helps with don't wait until the last minute because it's going to help our staff to get everything into the system. If they can go online, that would be ideally the best way to do it because they can request their ballot. It goes right into our online voter registration information, and it makes it so much easier on our staff. We do have the necessary PPE. As I had sent the information about these costs that could come to us for this election, because we're basically doing 2 elections in 1 election. We will have plexiglass shields for all of the election judges, or most of them. I mean, some of them will have to walk the floor, but the ones that are seated, they will have plexiglass shields, face masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, sanitizer for the common areas like Clorox wipes. We are using single-use pens. We are not going to ask the voters to reuse those pens. And also the privacy sleeves that we use, we are also going to only use those single-use. So to try to help the voters as much as we can. Let me see. And also, the things that we had to procure, we had to do before the governor's proclamation of allowing us to possibly change or allowing the state board to change the processes from using polling places to using vote centers. So we do have a lot. We've got a good amount of PPE so that we're good for the judges as well as the voters. Canvassing can begin in October, the 1st of October. So for us, when it comes to the mail-in ballots, it's still in the process of being determined, but we can begin, once we get enough ballots, we can start processing those ballots. The tallies are embargoed until Election Day. So after 8 o'clock, once the polls close, all of that is just like early voting. All of those reports then go up to the state and they're given out so that the voters or the people in Maryland and throughout the country will know what the results are. And then transportation possibly could be increasing because we've got more black carts. We have to send out more equipment so that we just don't know how many people will show up at the polling place. So we have to be ready for the numbers. You know, we'll know as we get closer, but we still don't know at this point, and we have to get our transportation company in line of what needs to be done. So that is kind of what it is, and then Joe was going to talk about the precinct base.
For Joe, regarding the mail-in ballots, they have to be requested, correct?
Yes, that is correct. There is an application that's going out to all eligible voters as of today.
Okay. So once you get the application, you need to fill it out, send it back in, and then you'll receive your ballot in the mail.
Correct. And you can do it either by sending that back in, which there will be postage paid envelopes included, or go online and do it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
First, I want to say that the early voting is at the big meeting room, or considered the bingo hall at the firehouse, not at the engine bays like it had been before. And we thank Mr. Pack for his assistance with the fire department in arranging that. The state law requires that votes be recorded by precinct, and we have 12 precincts, but in some of the precincts we have three election board seats on the ballot this time, and then they have some people that have no election board vote. So like in precinct 1-1, which is basically this part of Easton, starts at Bay Street and runs down Washington Street and goes to Bailey's Neck, includes all the areas in between. There's the maximum of 4 ballots there, because all 3 of the election board precinct or races are in that, and then there's some that have no school board race. Precinct 1-2, which is out by the high school, goes around out Goldsboro Street and jumps over to Dover Road. They've got, that's the largest precinct in number of voters. They have like 5,400 voters in that precinct. And they only have 3 ballot styles, because they have School Board 2, School Board 5, and then ones with no school board. Precinct 3, which is mostly in the town, it's Goldsboro Street that way, and pretty much covers it. It doesn't cover all the town, but most of it. It has School Board 2 and School Board 6, and ones with no school board, so it has 3 ballot styles. Precinct 5, which is pretty much outside the town, along Black Dog Alley, Hyde Park, and goes down to Lee Villa, Copperville, Tunis Mills, Unionville. It has 3 ballot styles. A lot of that is School Board 6, and some of it is also School Board 2, and then there's a fair bit of it that has no school board race. In St. Michael's, Precinct 1 is St. Michael's itself, and it has 2 ballot styles. The lower part, which does not have a school board race this time, that goes down towards Tillman, and actually includes most of the town of St. Michael's. And then the upper part, which comes this way, which is on the ballot this time, School Board 6. Bosman has only 1 ballot style. Royal Oak has only 1 ballot style. And District 3, which is Trapp, the precinct in Trapp has 2 ballot styles. It has School Board 5 and some with no school board. Precinct 3 in Oxford has only 1 ballot style, strictly School Board 5. District 4 in Chapel, Cordova, it has no school board race this time, so it only has 1 ballot style. District 5, which is Whitman and Tillman, has only, each of those have a separate ballot style. Whitman has 1 and Tillman has 1, but they only each have only 1. While I'm on the school boards, I remind you that by, I think it's November or December, you have to appoint a commission to redraw the school board districts. And they have about a year to report. And then after they report, there's 4 school board races up next election year in '22. And so those people have to know where they can file, because they can file deadlines in February. And then Jeri and the staff, they have to notify the people that have had school board changes, school board district changes, to send them new voters cards.
So is that December, Joe, for that commission to be formed, or was it November? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what month you said.
I can't remember exactly. I'd have to look at the legislation, but I believe it's November, and it has a year to report, I believe.
Right.
Well, and then it reports to you, and you have to adopt the new districts by the following November.
Okay. I remember when we did this before, so it's back again.
Right. Are there any questions for either one of us about anything?
No.
Yeah, just a couple. One is, I know that the Baltimore Sun today reported that 8,200 or something like that applications had been received statewide by the state. You said we got 100 back here in the county. There were problems in some jurisdictions about responses from local election boards. I trust that that was not the case here, that we've been promptly responding to those. Thank you for that. The council, of course, has 4 charter change questions on the ballot in the county this year, and I'm curious when we will see the numbering or lettering of those and the final wording of those questions, when that information will be publicly available.
So actually, we're in the process of proofing ballots, and I sent the information to Mr. Coopersmith, and he is looking at the local questions to make sure that everything is correct on those. And then I will send it up to the state board, where the ballots have been, any changes will be made at that point.
So the state reviews those for any possible changes, and we hear from them on what sort of timescale on that?
Well, we review them. So they have already reviewed them. They've done the first review, and then they send them to the local boards, and they ask the vet, because they're local questions, to pass them on to the local attorneys. so that they can also look at them to make sure that everything is the way that they had presented it to the state to put on the ballot. And so I've asked him to look over them, and then once they do, I have to send it up. So the next phase, I'm thinking, it would be the ballots that will show up on the website. So all the ballots will be on the State Board website for anybody to look at it after everything's proofed.
And that will be sometime next month, you expect?
I can't remember the deadline, but it's sometime, yeah, it's sometime in September, I would say. I don't want you to hold me on the date, but I think it's probably around the first or second week in September, probably the second week in September is I'm thinking.
So what I'm curious about is how much time will there be for voters to become informed between the time it's clear what these questions are, how they'll be numbered, how they'll appear on the ballot, and when the first voter has an opportunity to mail in their first ballot?
Well, we will send out to those that do not ask for application or ask for a mail-in ballot, we will send out our specimen ballots. But as far as you're asking if we will notify the voters of the...
I'm curious, for the first time the public can find out what these ballot questions will finally look like, and the first opportunity for a voter to mail in, how much time is there? Is that a week? A month? I think we've got a big job to do in terms of informing the voters, and I'm worried that we might not have a whole lot of time to do it.
I'm going to echo Mr. Lesher's question as well. I mean, we have a committee that was formed, and they need to get out and kind of advise people which numbered question to support. So.
Just one second, I'm looking at the State Board deadlines. See what the deadline is for the state to have it on the website. Okay, so according to the State Board website of their calendar, they can begin the printing of the ballots. So after 3 days of public display of the ballots, so that's September 3rd. So after that point, that's when they would go on the state website.
And when will the first voters be sent their mail-in ballots?
Around the 1st of October. Well, actually, the U.S.D.A voters, those that are overseas, will be about the 24th, I think, is the poll. And then the rest of the voters, they should start to see their ballots around the 1st of October.
So it sounds like we've got just 4 weeks.
About a month, yeah.
That's about it, yeah.
Okay, we got a lot of work to do there.
Tough job.
Well, when will they receive their specimen ballots, second ballots in the mail?
It's usually about a week or two before, or about a week before early voting begins. That's when specimen ballots come out.
Hi, this is Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We do already have the language that we sent to the state, right? So we do have a pretty good idea of what that language is going to be that the voters are going to see. So shouldn't we be able to start letting our subcommittee help us get that message out there to the voters and not wait until October?
I agree in principle. It will be a whole lot easier if we can tell people to vote yes on ballot question 1 or ballot question A or ballot question D or however these are going to appear on the ballot.
So I guess we have the language, but not necessarily the numbering or the lettering system. Is that what you're saying?
So this is Tony, and as Jeri said, she sent over a proof of the form, meaning a draft of what it would actually look like. And so in addition to our ballot questions, there are other ballot questions that are on there. And so I'm looking at it right now. There's question 1, and that's a state question. Question 2 is a state question. That's the second one that you're going to see on here on the ballot. And then it gets to our local questions. And our local questions are questions A, B, C, and D. And A deals with residency, B deals with the constant yield, C deals with eliminating consumer price index, and D deals with allowing a temporary increase of 1 cent per $100 of assessed value.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think that's helpful. Good to be able to start getting that word out.
And there is one more thing I just want to bring up. At all of these vote centers and early voting sites, any voter can go to any one of them. All the ballot styles will be at all of the different centers. So it's not a matter of precinct-based, where they have to go to their precinct in order to vote their ballot. So they will have that opportunity to go to any of those vote centers to vote their ballot.
That's good. That's good to know.
Could I get a clarification on that? So we have our precincts, and if you're going to your precinct, you go there. But if we identify a voting center, you would be able to go to that. So in other words, if you're an Easton voter, you can't go to the Tillman precinct.
In this election, yes, you can, because it is all vote centers. There will be no precinct just by polling place. It will only be by vote centers. There will be 4 of them throughout the county.
Okay. All right. And the drop boxes will be installed when, Jeri?
We're hoping the timeline that the state has told us is around the first week of October, so
Yeah, definitely. Sorry about
I
that.
apologize. We want to do it in tandem with when the ballots would start coming out.
Okay,
So it'll be
right.
around the first week of October that we should see them in our area.
Okay, and that's going to be at your office on Bay Street, at the election office on Bay Street, as well as the Easton Volunteer Fire Station, the
Yes.
drop boxes, just
Yes.
just those 2 locations?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I don't really envy the position that you guys are in right now. I know there's a lot going on and trying to deal with COVID and keeping people safe and all the different ballot questions that you all have to make sure you keep track of, but just wanted to thank you very much for all your hard work and your diligence, for you and your board, for being at the access to this council and to the county manager's office. We're trying to work with you as much as you can to give you what you need to pull this off. We do understand that it's a very different time that we're in right now. And again, going from the precincts to the voting centers is just that one indication of how different things are right now. So we'll keep on being with you and rooting for you until we get through November the 3rd. And okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Jeri.
very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Okay. I just want to echo one thing as Mr. Secrist is leaving. The early voting, again, will be on the opposite side of the volunteer fire station, the bingo hall this year, not at the other end. So I want to make sure people heard that distinction. Council, next on your agenda, we're going to have a presentation of our update of Talbot County Economic Development and Tourism. Cassandra Vanhooser, Economic Development Director, is with us. Cassandra, good to see you. And I'm just going to turn it over to you. Yes.
So much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. The council has. Okay, perfect. Well, then we will go with that.
Okay, good.
Hold the button as we talk the whole time.
Right. There? Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, like one of the handheld walkie-talkies, so.
So thank you for having us this evening. I brought Jackie Wilson, who is our Economic Development Commission chairperson, who's going to hold the button for me. I am really excited tonight to talk about our Talbot Cares Small Business Grant Program. We have wrapped up the first round of that, and I'm pleased to say that we have reinvested $849,967 into the business community of Talbot County. We have approved Out of 107 first-round applications, we have approved 90. We had 6 that did not qualify. You had to show a 25% loss of revenue from your business, and so we had some that did not qualify. We had 6 that withdrew for various reasons. We have one who's ill. We have one who didn't have all the information they needed. They chose to reapply on the second round. So various reasons to withdraw. So we had 6 of those. And then we have 5 that are still under review. We're hopeful that we will get those finished up before our September 1st deadline. The distribution by town, which you have in front of you, we had 68 businesses in Easton that received grants. We had 19 in St. Michael's, 7 in Oxford, 4 in Trapp, and 9 scattered around Talbot County. That includes Tillman, Sherwood, Royal Oak. So we grouped all of those together because they're in unincorporated areas of Talbot County. And then I did this, I'm sorry that our public can't see this, but we did a fun little word cloud for you just so you could see the vast array of businesses that applied in the first round of grants. So we had everything from business consultants to restaurants and agritourism and attorneys and youth services and contractors and wineries, everything you can imagine. People have applied for this. It really shows the depth of the economic impact of COVID-19 on Talbot County. We had the most businesses that received grants were restaurants, and we had a number of lodging establishments, and also personal services. That's consistent with the economic impact data that we are seeing when you look at our unemployment numbers, which I will address those momentarily. But unemployment is still very high in those segments that are food preparation and service, still at 14% as of June. You don't have those numbers, but
Okay.
I came across this after I'd already submitted that. Sales related, still 7%. Transportation and material moving, still at 9% unemployment. Building, grounds, cleaning, maintenance, everyone thinks that those have rebounded, but they're still at unemployment at 7%. 22% in personal care and service occupations. Again, consistent with what we saw with our grant program. Very interesting here, arts, design, entertainment, sports, and media occupations, still at 12%, and media and communication workers at 10%. And that is, again, consistent with what we've seen with our consultants, but also it tells me that people are beginning to cut their marketing and communication services. So all of the information that we've seen in our program is consistent with what we're seeing statewide, countywide, and nationally. We will reopen our CARES grant on September 1st. We will have roughly $400,000 left to reinvest into the business community. So we are looking forward to that. We've gone to extraordinary measures to help people get qualified. We have a dual evaluation system. I wanted to give kudos to all the people who worked on the task force. Our Economic Development Commission members, including Jackie, have been very helpful in this and really pulled their weight in setting up this program and reviewing all of the applications. Jackie, along with Rich Leffler, who is our Small Business Development Center business consultant assigned to Talbot County, Ron Engel, Gene Wiesman, Sandy Pepe, and Walter Chase, all from the Economic Development Commission. You will notice that they all represent one of the towns. The Talbot County Council, Corey Pack, represented you all, and then Andy Hollis and Jessica Morris, Angela Lane, Denitza Myers from our finance office, very instrumental in this program. We could not have done it without them. They're the ones writing the checks. And also Denitza is a reviewer on all of these. And then, of course, myself. But I want to make sure that you understand that even though I've spent many hours on these files, my staff has gone to extraordinary measures to process these grant applications and make sure that people are getting their checks. I did want to go ahead and tell you that we aren't just stopping with passing out money to businesses that are in need. We have strengthened our relationship with the Small Business Development Center. Rich Leffler, as I mentioned previously, is a business consultant assigned to Talbot County, but they have added help. Greg Bartu has been hired. That we are with the Small Business Development Center out of Salisbury University, and Greg has been added to deal with COVID-19 related issues. All of our small businesses in Talbot County are eligible for free consulting services, and they are confidential and, again, free. So we will be doing some marketing behind this to encourage our people. We've already connected some people with our business consultants, so we're very happy to have strengthened this. Many of you have heard Rich Leffler on our calls that we have every week. He has been excellent to share information about the financial programs that are out there, as has John Hickman, who is the director of the Salisbury office. So, Corey, you had asked that we address some of the numbers. The numbers are vast, but the one that I really wanted to point out to you is that as of June, we were still seeing 8.6% unemployment in 8.6% unemployment in Talbot County. Maryland is at 9%, and this is as of June. These are the most recent numbers. And the national unemployment rate is 12.5%. For reference for you, again, we were at 8.6 in June for Talbot County. As of June of 2019, we were at 3.9%. That again shows you the depth of the economic impact on Talbot County. I also, the real revenue numbers that I have for you are Talbot County tourism numbers, and I had already planned to talk about our calendar year 2019 numbers, and as most of you will remember, we typically don't get those from our partner Tourism Economics until November or December of each year, but they moved their timeline up. They get this information from the Comptroller's office. Now again, these are 2019 numbers, and they are stellar. We saw visitation of well over 600,000 visitors in the year 2019, and that would be about 40% of those stay overnight. That's where your accommodations tax numbers are coming from. No, I got it. She's offering me her cheaters, which I obviously, it's tiny, tiny printing. So we're up in every category except retail. That again is predictable. We are seeing that retail apocalypse that people call. We're still are calling the downturn in retail. We have seen some of that here, but overall up 2.7% in visitor spending, for a total of $222 million of revenue for Talbot County. Those are the best numbers we've ever seen and very impressive. And again, you're going to want to see these numbers for the number of people who are employed. And that is, we have a total of 2,775 employed in Talbot County in the tourism industry. So, for reference for you, just so you will see what's coming. Again, calendar year 2019. But I took a look at the rooms tax that we've collected January through June. Easton is down 52.73% in their accommodations tax collection, which means they're down the equivalent in their receipts as well. Oxford down 71.88%. St. Michael's down 62.5%. For B&Bs, we're down 58.5%. And short-term rentals down right at 15%. So we are down across the board in our accommodations collection, which means we're going to be down in restaurants, we're going to be down in all of our visitation numbers, attractions, everything. Pete, you're probably seeing that at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. Everything that we're seeing, when we look at these numbers, we don't use them as, exact numbers,
Right.
but we look at them to show trends. And our trend had been excellent, up, and then COVID-19 has come along, and I dread to see what the numbers for 2020 will be when we look at the calendar year. Again, I don't have access to the revenue numbers for other industries, but we get them because we collect the accommodations tax for the county, and Angela shared these numbers with me. So, again, this shows the depth and breadth of everything that's going on here in Talbot County. We still have, right at 1,500 people in this county unemployed. We're, all of the things that we've done through the EOC, we are seeing those numbers. These are consistent with everything we know. So I would like to offer that if you want additional information, and I have piles of it, that we might look at it either at a later date to keep tabs on it, or if you want more information, we can look at that maybe with our partners. I get my information largely from the WIB, the Workforce Investment Board. Dan McDermott has access to Chamura, which is an economics reporting platform that they pay a lot of money for, and he is always very generous to share those numbers with us. There is one other bright spot, though, that I would like to share with you, and most of you know about it because you want me to do that now? Okay. Most of you already know about it because you've received an invitation, but we will be launching International Underground Railroad Month in Talbot County for the state of Maryland. Here on September the 1st at the Frederick Douglass Park on the Tuckahoe. We will also be unveiling some wayside signs that are our first interpretive elements that we're putting in there. It's a way for people to learn more about Frederick Douglass, to learn more about the natural environment into which he was born and has written so eloquently about. And then that park will open to the public on September 1st at 12 noon. So that is a private event. About 50 people, but we will open the park for visitors at that time. We're very excited about this because since I have been here, I know that people come looking for Frederick Douglass. They read about him. There was a fantastic article in The Atlantic recently where a journalist came to Talbot County and he was looking for the birthplace of Frederick Douglass. We are that place. Nothing else in the Frederick Douglass story happens unless it starts here in Talbot County. So we are thrilled to be honoring this great American hero, and we will be beginning that interpretive journey at the park on September 1st, and I hope you all can join us. And at that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, at which point I will hold the...
One good turn deserves another, all right?
So I just wanted to say I've been working very closely with Cassandra and the Economic Development Commission now for a couple of years. She and her staff do an amazing job, especially during COVID, what they've done, the stories they're hearing, the stories I'm hearing on the streets. This money has made a difference. And I think the county was quick to put in place, the team was quick to put in place the parameters, and they're doing everything they can to help businesses meet those parameters, get the information, walk people through it, and it's been extremely time-consuming for Cassandra. But again, her staff, Candace, Mary Lou, and Pam, I just want to call them out by name, because they really have also done an amazing job, and we should be most impressed and very happy because there's some real nice stories coming out of this.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and I'll echo what Jackie just said regarding that committee that was put together for the CARES funding. You all jumped on board as the senior policy group wanted this up and running as quickly as possible and getting that money back out to these business owners, because we understood what they were going through. So you distributed some 600,000 already? I just lost that.
850.
800,000 already, right? So, and 400,000 more to go. So, and you're outpacing. We had we had Linda Webb in last time to talk about the individual side of CARES funding, because that number is trending significantly behind where you guys are right now with the business. And to your point, that we knew when COVID hit, it was going to hit those restaurants and those tourism-type industries very, very hard. Because we were saying, hey, don't come here right now. We shut down STRs for a while. We were encouraging people not to travel from Talbot outside the state and vice versa. So we should have expected to see those numbers on tourism and restaurants and hotel stays die down. Should have been expected. I think those numbers that you read over to us bear that out. But on the other hand, we want to make sure that those individuals, now that the $600 unemployment supplement has gone away, now that evictions are now back up on the schedule at district court, so we should see that individual side click over and more people coming in for help with that. So thank you very much for the presentation. And yes, September 1, we're going to be up dedicating those placards to Frederick Douglass, who's out here on the courthouse grounds, who fought against slavery and was a great abolitionist. And we want to make sure that we welcome all citizens here to Talbot County to that beautiful overlook. Anyone else from council?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 90 businesses in Talbot County had less than 26, had a reduction of revenue by 26% or more. 90 businesses lost that much revenue. So if they had the cash in the bank to still continue to keep people on, I thank those businesses for doing that. For those that had to lay them off to double our unemployment, I'm terrified. The economic impact on Talbot County from this is substantial, is massive. When you look at, 62%, 71% decline in tourism in Oxford, that's their main industry. St. Michael's, 62%, 52% in Easton. The money's not being spent at the hotels. People aren't coming here to spend it anywhere else. So we're going to be in a real jam as people now start recognizing that they're getting the eviction notices, that we still have, there's only, $400,000 left for businesses, which provide the paychecks to keep the people going, but we still do have additional money for the individual assistance as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is right. And I will say kudos to the county council for giving some money to individual assistance, because these people who need that assistance, I mean, it's going to be a lifesaver for many people. And I haven't heard of any other county doing that. So I think that's visionary. I think that's commendable. And we're really focused on helping the businesses, but the individual assistance helps the workers. So that's key as well.
Right.
How would the individuals go about applying for that?
So if you want to apply for a small business grant, you go to talbotworks.org. We have an online portal there. And then Linda Webb with Social Services, you can apply for that through them. And they have not an online application, but they have applications printed out there. They have a new PR campaign where they're promoting how to apply for that information. We have also made sure that we got that information out to our businesses so that if they have workers who need assistance, then they can apply for that. We, on the business call today, Matt Defoe from Chop Tank Electric called in, and we said, well, we need to connect you with our individual assistance program so that you can tell your people to apply. So we're doing all we can to get that out to the businesses and via them get it out to the workers. And I know Linda's team is doing the same.
Yeah. Linda was just in, if you remember, last week, 2 weeks ago, and they had the new flyer that they did, the yellow flyer. And so the points of entry for the individuals are either with Neighborhood Service Center, St. Vincent de Paul, or at DSS on Bay Street for enrollment. Anything else for these ladies?
And I would greatly thank you for the Tuesday phone calls. I think that I would like to see the phone calls going. I know that people are dropping off. Hopefully new people are coming on. As we head into this crunch now with people getting the eviction notices, I think things are going to get a little bit more busy. Money crunches are still going to be coming with this. So I expect you guys to be getting a lot more phone calls here over the next few weeks.
I think you're right, and I will say, I say it on every call, but kudos to Dr. Wadley for being on every one of these calls where we speak directly to the businesses. And I said this on one of the calls, but I'll tell you again. I was on a call with some of my tourism colleagues, and they were having the same information we hear from Dr. Wadley repeated to them as if for the first time. And I was like, wow, we really are lucky that we have her and her expertise and her willingness to share this information with the business community. So kudos to Dr. Wadley. I can't say that enough.
Thank you. I concur. Well, ladies, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your presentation. And Jackie, you did a wonderful job with that, holding that button down. Council, next on your agenda, we're going to get an update on the request from VFW Post 5118 for memorials for Talbot County KIAs that's killed in action from World War I, World War II, and Korean War. The posers for this monument, or monuments, I should say, there are 3 separate monuments to be placed on the courthouse ground. Ms. Agnes Blaze is back with us, also Ms. Nancy Gooding. They're both from VFW Post 5118. Ladies, I know it's been some time since we had you both before us, and thanks for coming back, and thanks for your patience. Council had a couple other matters we wanted to get done with first before we brought you back for your presentation. So I will turn it over to you all. You're going to have to hold that button down when you're speaking as if you have a handheld walkie-talkie. And please speak directly into the mic and as loud as you possibly can. We have some demonstrators outside the building, so thank you.
Okay. There's not much to present because we're just here for the final approval. When we met with you last time, the last thing we had to do was get the final approval from the Historic Commission, which they did without any problem whatsoever. They approved the landscaping plan. As you can well imagine, COVID has really affected our fundraising greatly. We've raised almost $39,000 of the $55,000 we need, so that's the good news. The monuments are finished. They're ready to be installed. Unfortunately, because we're so late into August right now, the George Corey, who's heading up the landscaping plan, won't be able to get it in August. And he has a big project coming up in September, so it won't get installed now until October, which is still okay because we're looking forward to having it up and ready for Veterans Day.
Okay.
So that's really it. I mean, we're ready to install. We just need you to say that it's okay.
Did we get anything back from Brian Moore regarding any of the tree removals or anything that has to be done on the grounds part?
So Brian has met with George Corey on site. He's gone over the schematics that George has prepared, and he's comfortable with them. Brian's ask is that we develop an MOU with the organization so that when the ground is disturbed, the memorial is built, that water lines, sprinkler lines, things like that, if there's any damage, that they're addressed. So just something simple at that level. Other than that, Brian's okay.
Okay.
Right, and George Corey has been in touch with Brian Moore, and I've been in touch with Brian Moore, and he's totally on board with this. There's only one limb that has to be removed in order for the installation to take place, and he's actually offered to take it off, so take the limb off. So he's totally on board with this. He's very well versed on the project and what has to be done. As far as the irrigation system is concerned, unfortunately, the main box was right smack in the middle of where the walkway had to go. But I had George explain it, and it's, I wrote it down after he told me, and so currently the box for the irrigation valve is situated where the center of the memorial will be installed. The box will be moved to either the left or right of its existing location Sleeves will be installed to aid reconnection. Additional lines will be installed to water all the new plants. All lines will be disconnected for 1 day only.
Okay, we don't have that in our packet, I don't believe.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Do we do?
What were you looking for?
Regarding the water lines being disconnected in the box, the water box being removed and repositioned?
It's not going to be removed, it's going to be
Repositioned.
repositioned.
Yeah, removed, it has to be moved and repositioned, yeah.
Which
Right.
goes back to the point of needing an MOU to make sure
And
we
the
know
MOU.
what's going on and that
Right.
it's done correctly.
Yeah, well, and I don't think we have the MOU here either.
Make a motion for the MOU.
We just need to see it.
I would like an MOU included in a
Right.
motion if you would.
Yeah, we need to see the MOU before, I mean, I would like to see the MOU. I'm fine with the project as you presented it, but I still need to hear from Brian Moore to make sure that he has gone over and he's approving what you're telling us today, and that the MOU between Mr. Moore, between the county and your contractor, goes over, you know, the removal and replacement of that line, and any damage that's done to that line would be, of course, paid by, I guess, by him, by the contractor.
By us.
Or by you, but that needs to be stated in the MOU, right? That, whatever party is going to be liable needs to be stated. And then that needs to be, of course, looked at by the Office of Law to make sure that everything is okay with the Office of Law. So,
What do you need? Something in writing from Brian? You want us to call? Because I've been in touch with him several times. George Corey's been in touch with him several times. We gave him the actual landscaping plan, and he approved it, and the Historic Commission also knows that Brian Moore is on board with this also.
okay.
So, council, you can give your approval tonight contingent on the MOU being executed. You can wait to see the document. We're not trying to overbuild this. We're just trying to make sure that our interests are protected
Right.
during construction.
I would like to see the MOU before I would approve anything tonight to go forward from Mr. Moore and have the Office of Law look at it.
I'm not hearing what you're saying.
I said I would like to see the MOU before I would move forward this evening. That's the memorandum of understanding. That's laying out any damage done to any of the water lines or the box, who would be responsible for that, who would pay for that, any damage done to the surrounding grounds, who's going to pay for it. So I would need to see that, so I would be understanding. No, ma'am, you don't have to call anybody. I would need to see it. I need to see it in writing. So don't take out your phone. I would need to see that in writing by Mr. Moore and have the Office of Law look at it.
I'm writing it down, so.
Okay. Okay. I thought you were
Do
going
we
to
need
make
to
a
make a
phone.
motion to allow Brian to enter into a MOU with them?
No.
So, if I'm hearing the president correctly, we're going to bring a draft MOU back to you for approval to be entered into by the council. Brian won't be entering into the MOU. Or
Okay.
you can take the action tonight contingent on the MOU. It's entirely up to you. I checked with Tony. We should be able to get a draft back to you within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks? Okay. How do you want to proceed? I mean, I've stated my position. I want to see the
I'd be
MOU.
perfectly comfortable authorizing, approving this now, subject to the execution of the MOU. And then these two very diligent people don't need to come back to us. It can simply be handled on the staff level. Beyond that, we can clearly see everything here. You've done all the work, and I want to congratulate on it, all the detailed design, the site work, the budgeting, the fundraising, the HDC review, the clear evidence of thorough research, that everyone, that this will accurately list all of those from our county who gave their last full measure to the United States in 3 wars. This deserves our support. Your really hard work deserves recognition. Thank you for doing this, for really carrying this through. It's been a much, much longer process than I think either of you had anticipated when you set out. And you deserve a lot of thanks from the county and from the public for doing this. This is really a wonderful tribute to those who have served from our county. Thank you.
And we thank you for your support, but this is also long overdue. long overdue. It's been long overdue for these KIAs. One more thing I wanted to tell you is the Shore Monument has
Yeah, can you push the
agreed-
button down? Could you push
Oh,
the
it's not
button?
pushed. The light's on. Can you hear now? Yeah. Okay. Shore Monument has agreed to install before we finish fundraising. That's how committed they are to the project also. So everyone is just waiting to go. So do we don't have to come back, or?
I think, I agree. I'm okay going forward with it. The water line that we're talking about, we're just basically talking about an irrigation, small little irrigation line, right? That's what we're talking.
You know,
Is that
yes.
what we're talking about?
Brian
Yes,
Moore met with
Right.
George Corey right here.
Right.
And they agreed, and they said, okay, so as you go, move it over here, move it over there. Brian didn't care.
Okay.
You know,
All right, I'm
and
fine.
everything will be disrupted for one day, the watering, and I think it'll be okay. George Corey has been in business around here for, what, about 30 years?
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He is going to make this look really, really beautiful.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I'll move to
I'll
approve this
second
subject
it.
to the MOU.
Okay.
I'll second it.
So, who do I ask for this MOU?
We'll get it drafted. We'll get it drafted. It has to go over to Mr. Corey to sign off on it. We'll get it drafted.
So can we let George Corey know that,
That the MOU is going to be drafted and sent over. Yes.
so how long will this take? Because he,
Well, we got a motion on the floor.
I know. I'm answering our question.
Okay.
We could probably get it drafted in less than a week. Yeah. Next 2 weeks.
so will there be time to start October construction?
I'm sure it will be.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because we're starting to run out of time here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, anything further? Okay. We have a motion to approve pending the drafting of the MOU and signing off on that by Mr. Lesher, seconded by Mr. Callahan. Any further questions? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much, ladies.
So will someone let us know when you get this all done?
Yes, 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 we will. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Blaze. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation and request by Midshore Behavioral Health. Ms. Katie Dilley is with us. She is Executive Director of Midshore Behavioral Health, Inc. Good evening, Katie. How you doing? Good. We're going to need you to hold that button down on the mic when you speak, and just hold that button as you're speaking, and I'll turn it over to you. And you're going to have to speak directly into that mic and speak a little loud, please. We have a demonstration outside, as you can hear.
That's fine.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes?
maybe a little closer, Katie.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Dilley, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of Midshore Behavioral Health. We are the core service agency that serves the 5 Midshore counties here on the Eastern Shore. I always start off with just a recap of our vision and mission statement of our agency. Our mission is to continually improve the provision of behavioral health services for our residents of Caroline, Dorchester, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Talbot counties through effective coordination of care and collaboration with our consumers, their natural support systems, our providers, and community at large. Our vision at Midshore Behavioral Health is a rural behavioral health care delivery system that is both clinically and culturally competent, and will ensure our access, have a community focus, be cost-effective, and integrate services for the community as a whole. I've sent over a packet of information this evening with a lot of data, a lot of good highlights of the activities and services that are monitored and rendered for oversight out of our organization. So I'm not going to go in and review each line item just because we'd be here for quite a bit of time, but I like to give you all a highlight of our activities for the year. As we are asking for our fiscal year 21 letter of agreement. Typically, we do this presentation in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, before the turn of the fiscal year to ask for your support to continue to serve as your core service agency. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to push that back a little bit, so we do appreciate your allowing us to come and do this a little bit delayed. But, you know, Midshore does have a breadth of services that we provide, and if you've had the opportunity to review our fiscal growth over the last couple of years, we've doubled in our revenue that we're monitoring now. We're up to a little over $10 million in oversight of grant dollars from about $5 million 2 years ago. So we've been very busy trying to get new and innovative services plugged into the Midshore region. So I'm going to take a moment to sort of go over some of the high points for you all, and if you have questions, please feel free to stop and ask those along the way. One of our most exciting activities this year has been we have a community behavioral health plan that we're required by the Behavioral Health Administration to compile and put together each year to commit to what services and oversight and new initiatives we'll be doing in our region. This year, we were able to put together the first integrated health plan with our 5 local health departments, which house our local addiction authorities. So for the first time, 6 entities came together and actually produced one community behavioral health plan representative of all of our organizations for the Midshore. So that has been a great process, and we're excited to get the initiatives kicked off here in fiscal 21. We're looking at a longer-term project of our local authority responsibilities actually enhancing to represent Midshore Behavioral Health as serving as your local behavioral health authority in collaboration with our health department. So that's about a 3 to 5 year project. So I'll probably want to come back and present with Dr. Wadley in more detail at some point down the road as to what that looks like, because we would certainly want your support with that.
Sure.
Let's see, a couple of very exciting opportunities that we've secured in terms of funding and programming are related to our child and adolescent population. As you know, the services here in the Midshore are limited for that population. So knowing that, we've gone after a couple new initiatives to bring more resources into the community to serve that population. One of which is we secured funding for crisis services specifically for our child and adolescent population to be added to our current mobile crisis provider through House Bill 1092, which brought crisis money 2 years ago into a competitive environment for the state. And we were able to secure funding to expand our mobile crisis services to have specific services related to our child and adolescent population. So now we have clinicians that are embedded in those teams that are able to respond to schools as well as homes that have had a high frequency of Department of Social Services involvement, or just the community at large that is in need of that service. We've also secured some funding through the federal government, through SAMHSA, for a grant called the Healthy Transitions Grant, and that's funding specifically for our transitional aged youth to have enhanced case management. So youth that are already involved in mental health services now have access to resources where they have expanded case management and socio-economic school and family and psychosocial sessions that have been extended to help them have a more well-rounded support system as they're moving into becoming more autonomous and independent, and also accessing their services continuously as well. We did a couple of targeted adolescent childhood, or the ACEs, the adverse experience presentations this year. So we did a couple of events down on Tillman Island. We also did an event at the Avalon Theater here in Easton, where we brought, special speakers and a viewing of the film Angst to the community to really get the community out and talking about childhood anxiety as well as adverse childhood experiences. Let's see, we have had a lot of focus, of course, in the face of our opioid crisis. So we have secured lots of new dollars to bring in crisis-related services for quick access to treatment for folks facing opioid crisis. So we've been monitoring the state opioid response now for a couple years and have just actually gone after the next round of that funding, which will be another 2 years to the funding that's currently supporting 8 crisis beds at the AF Whitsitt Center. We're looking to expand those beds to 12. That's up in Kent County. That's our one of our primary residential treatment facilities. We also had funding secured to bring 2 safe stations to the Eastern Shore. So in collaboration with our Talbot County activity, we've also added a safe station in Worcester County, down in Ocean City on 15th Street, and Wicomico County. And we're looking to enhance and expand that service through the next round of this funding. But one of the neat things that we've done is, in the absence of having our oversight for the funding that supports some of the additional safe stations on the shore, we've actually come up with a safe station coalition. So we're all meeting every other month to make sure that we're doing some universal operating procedures and how we manage folks that present to a safe station in need.
Sure.
So no matter what county you actually show up in, you'll be greeted and supported in a similar fashion.
Good.
So I think that's been a nice collaborative project.
And that is, Katie, if I can just remind people that, the opioid crisis hasn't gone away. I know
No.
COVID has kind of dominated the headlines.
Amplified it.
Exactly. I believe the last numbers that I looked at in 2019, Maryland still had over 550 opioid-related overdose. So with the introduction of fentanyl and carfentanil, we're now seeing overdose and marijuana-laced overdose, also in cocaine.
Sure.
So I just want to applaud you all for keeping that health-related issue still at the forefront of your mission.
Absolutely.
Because that has not gone away.
Right. And the federal government has actually acknowledged exactly what you're indicating is there is an expansion of substances that have sort of resurged in their use as well as their their fatality impacts.
Yeah.
So the second round of state opioid response funding actually is expanded to allow folks that not just only have an opioid use or presenting with an opioid use need, but also our stimulants. So cocaine and our methamphetamine users will
Right.
also be able to access services, whereas before they were limited to just folks that were abusing opiates.
Okay.
So
Good.
I'm pleased that that's expanded and hopeful that we can, continue to fight this, because certainly we've seen the numbers actually increase in this period of COVID as opposed to decrease. And with the isolation,
Right.
There's been a lot of relapse and a lot of folks that have had a difficult time accessing services.
Absolutely.
One additional expansion activity through the new SOAR funding is we're looking at putting out a request for proposals for 2 adolescent clubhouses. There are 5 clubhouses in the state of Maryland, and none of them are on the Eastern Shore. So this is sort of an out-of-box, effective program model that targets youth that are at risk or currently using substances. So we're hopeful to bring 2 of those to the Eastern Shore, primarily Midshore. But we're trying to think out of the box with which partners in our community could go after that funding. And we're also really supportive of folks doing things virtually, because we know that might be the only way we can reach that population right now. So we're looking forward to updating you all on that, because that should be activity that starts in the fall. We're hopeful to have our vendors secured probably by the end of September as to who will be providing that service. So it's exciting. We have continued to have a lot of support with our sequential intercept model and mapping process. And I know, Corey, you have been involved and attended some of those meetings historically that we've hosted
Yes.
for the SIM model. This year, we were able to address human trafficking and what that looks like and interpreting the different intercepts that someone may move in and out of the criminal justice system and be impacted through. And how we can look at it through the lens of folks that unfortunately have been human trafficked and professionals that are out there working to combat that, that activity happening on the shore and beyond.
Right.
We actually have the opportunity next week to work with one of our senators in the state that is looking at the sequential intercept mapping and model process for the whole state to be served as an example of how we were able to map the midshore region. So that's a really exciting activity that we're supporting as well.
Thank you, Kate.
I will be brief because I know you've got another presentation from Dr. Wadley, and I want to make sure you guys can move on with your evening as well. But we've had a lot of activity in response to the COVID-19 crisis where we've had to reformat and adapt how we're serving the community. So we've actually gone after quite a bit of additional funding specifically for our folks facing homelessness. So in addition to overseeing behavioral health activity, we also house the continuum of care for the midshore counties. So we've had new funding through HUD as well as the CARES Act come our way to help folks that are in need or at risk of homelessness secondary to the COVID crisis. So that is an unfortunate good thing that's come out of our COVID-19 crisis is the expanded funding for prevention of homelessness here in the midshore. So we're trying to see the silver lining with adding resources into the community as we're facing this crisis. So we also have organized a provider network meeting that happens every other week that's representative of all 9 counties on the shore, as well as a lot of our delegation have been participating in that meeting actively to make sure that we're not only doing local advocacy for things like telehealth and our delivery of care, but looking at how we're forecasting how some of the financial impacts of what's going on with the COVID crisis will potentially impact grant dollars as well as services as we move into the remainder of this fiscal year and planning for FY22. So that's been a wonderful resource. Specific to Talbot County, a couple of exciting things coming up that I just want to give you sort of an invitation to participate before I close. We are going to be participating in some of the virtual events for Talbot Goes Purple in September, and we're also hosting, the first time ever in collaboration with all 5 counties, we're doing a Going Purple Together virtual event, and that will be hosted on Friday, September 5th from 4 to 6:30. It's going to be a virtual event. So once we have our information, I'll be sure to send that to you all so you can hopefully tune in and participate.
Thank you.
And of course, one of the things that's been a nice collaborative project this year is working with how we supported the Shore Regional Health System with bringing the provider network together to look at the movement and the planning for the adult inpatient beds that will be moving from Dorchester County to Easton.
Okay.
So we've actually started a sort of a leadership meeting and a community focus group meeting with Shore Regional to look at how behavioral health services can remain at the forefront of their service line planning as they're, doing their regional planning here in the midshore. So that's been a nice complementary activity. Let's see. I've had the pleasure of serving as the co-chair of the local management board and will continue to serve in that capacity this year, as well as sit on your START advisory committee. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sure. And lastly, just a little bit of data before I close. We have in fiscal year 19 1,645 individuals in the county were served for mental health services in the public behavioral health system, and 809 were served for substance-related services through the public behavioral health system. And I would go on a little bit more, but I
That's
know the
okay.
volume level's a little challenging. So
It is.
and typically, I will say I have to send regrets just with the COVID planning. I didn't bring Ann Simpers, who is your Talbot County representative, sends her regrets. She would have been co-presenting with me tonight, so, yes.
We certainly thank you for all that you're doing. I'm going to call for a motion right now. I need a motion to go ahead and sign a letter of agreement. You have that in Granicus. You had a chance to go over it.
Second.
Before we go into that, I just had one question here.
Well, I need the motion. I haven't even, I can't make the motion, but go ahead.
So your budget from fiscal 18, what looks like it's about $5 million, has now gone up to about $10 million in 2 years. So the Midshore behavioral health budget has doubled in 2 years.
Yes.
How do you think this current economic and COVID status that we're in is going to affect your budget for next year?
Well, that's a very good question. We're holding hope that our grant dollars are preserved as much as possible, especially given the recent data that's come out through the CDC, analyzing mental health and wellness and behavioral health right now. That is going to really be the second wave of this crisis, is how folks are adapting or not to the crisis. So we are doing a lot of advocacy at the state level for preservation for our funding, but a lot of those dollars are also federal dollars that have been earmarked for special projects. And as of right now, in our collaboration with the Behavioral Health Administration, we haven't received any formal indication that the dollars will be reduced, but we're being very conservative with making sure they're going to services. And if there's any funding that's available to roll into the next fiscal year, we will be. We'll be doing that.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's a mental health crisis going on.
There is a mental health, there is a mental health.
I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the letter of agreement. Moved by Mr. Callahan. Second by Mr. Villio. All in favor?
That's not how that works.
Call your roll. I'm sorry, call your roll.
I would be happy to come back to and talk more about that.
We'll bring you back.
We're doing some special projects around that as well.
Madam Secretary, call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Kate. We'll get that letter signed and over to you.
The invitation's open for coming back and talking more.
We'll bring you back.
Yeah,
We'll bring you back.
I'm available, so don't hesitate to reach out.
We know where to find you.
Okay.
Thanks, Katie. Who made that motion? You made the motion, right? Who seconded it? All right. All right. Next is our COVID-19 update. Dr. Wadley, Health Officer. Dr. Wadley, you're going to have to hold that button down. You're going to have to speak directly into the mic. You're going to have to speak very, very loudly. I know you sent out the numbers already today. Thank you for doing that. You send them out every day, so we appreciate you coming out. And after you read your report, I do want to ask you questions regarding the emergency declaration that we're going to be considering next, okay? Okay, whatever. Yeah, just nod your head whenever I say something. I'll turn it over to you.
I think I got the button.
There you go.
So I'm just going to start off with some numbers.
Right.
And start with today and sort of relate them to what's been going on. For example, today Maryland had 377 new cases, and that's really, I haven't seen that figure that low. We've been running in like 5 and 600. This may be just aberrant, but you like to see it every now and then. But that's what we've really been running, around 5 and 600. We've had a total in Maryland of 105,046 cases. 31 of those were on the Eastern Shore. We're running about 8% of the total cases. And I say that because we really, over the cumulative, have been about 5%. And I think it's as much that the other counties are going down and the Eastern Shore is not going down quite as rapidly. So Talbot has 2 cases today for a total of 457. We ran very high for a couple of weeks. We've been running 1 case, 2 case. Then Sunday we hit with 14 cases, and part of that was due because of our testing on Thursday. 11 of those were positive just from our testing on Thursday, reported on Sunday. But all of that pushed our positivity rate up. So if you look at the states, they went up a little bit with 3.3 positivity, and we've got 3.9. Now, yesterday we had a 3.8 positivity rate, but we have gone from a 2.5 to a 3.9 in a little over a week, and part of that's because of those 14 cases that I was telling you. But part of it can also be because of decreased testing. And now it fluctuates up and down. But there for a while we were running around 20,000 cases a day across Maryland. And like I noticed today, when the positivity rates were high, the state only reported 12,870 cases. So that could be part of the reason. One of the things that I've also been reporting is we're watching the school-age children and what their rates are. They've been high in July, higher than usual, and they're sort of settling down that the 0 to 9 are about 4% of the cases, and the 10 to 19 are about 12.7. So that's stable out. There for a while, both of them were 22%, 19%. So now they're sort of settling around 16, 17%, which that we like because of the kids getting ready to go back to school. A couple of things too is we have noticed over the past week or so that we have had better mask compliance in businesses. We've also gotten less complaints, all of us, email, call in. So, and we've done some inspections and actually found compliance in the ones where we've had some complaints. So that's a noticeable difference over the past week. One of the things I wanted to mention about testing, because it keeps coming up, is the delay in turnaround, or the turnaround times. And we've been getting some of the labs really, really good, less than 3 days or less. But there still are reports of some, especially going to some urgent care centers where it's taking a long time. And I just have to say that, that's going to happen periodically, but we have to recognize that when the testing takes that long, you're really hindered in what you can do for the contact tracing. So luckily we still have Shore Health at the Chesapeake College. They have a really good turnaround time, and sometimes there's less than 2 days. So they've not only helped our percentage go up to 25.6% of the population being tested, and that's more than the state. State average is just a little over 20%, so we got 5% more. But a lot of that has come with the extra testing at the Chesapeake College, and so that's helped a tremendous amount. Everybody keeps asking, when can we have a rapid test? Is that any closer? Everybody's still looking at it, including the state. The big thing is the rapid tests really aren't quite as good, and you don't want to miss a lot of positives because that also could be bad. So I think when the rapid testing, actually, they get a test that's better and more likely to pick up close to what the gold standard picks up, then I think we'll see some rapid testing. And they're also looking at point of care, you know, when you go into your physician and it's sort of like a quick test and they can have it right while you're there. If we ever got to the COVID and the influenza like that rapidly, it would be great, because as we're going into the influenza season, we know that when they come in, we can run the flu test on them, but we won't be able to run a rapid on them probably for quite some time. In the news, and I think I should say this because everybody's been worried about antibodies, and are we gaining antibodies if we get the infection, and do the antibodies last? And the big question has been, can you get reinfected? Well, we had one case this week, Hong Kong, but another one. So we now have two cases that pretty much have been documented that their infections were 3 months apart, but the genetic code of that virus was a little bit different, which they would expect, not the same as just laying around. Second was, that's important because all the ones that had antibodies and be infected again.
Press that down a little harder, please. Thank you. Yeah.
If they're going to have it again. But I think more studies have to be done on those. One of those had immune problems. The other one didn't, but that's still a possibility. And the vaccine, I can't say much about that. Still working on it, still testing, but... and the other thing I'll end with is that more and more are asking about two things: school guidance and guidance on youth sports. The state has told us for about 3 weeks, we'll get that to you, especially on the school guidance. Still, we have not gotten that. And while some say, well, it should be a local decision, I think what health officers are looking for, and superintendents, is what do the experts consider as, if you took this metric, that would be a low risk, a middle risk, or a high risk. For example, I've actually seen some play around with the infection rate. That's a daily case rate. You do a rolling average over 7 days or 14 days, but you take that daily number average and you figure out what that would be for a population of 100,000. So I've seen some look at that. I think we'll probably see more and more comparisons between states and counties based on the how many per 100,000. That gives you a lot better chance to compare one country to another with different populations as well as one county. But I'll have to say we haven't gotten that guidance yet from the state. Still waiting for it, but that's the two big things that we've been asked for recently is school and youth sports.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wiley. Don't run off just yet.
Okay.
I'm looking at an email you sent to us earlier today regarding face shields. As you know, last time council was together 2 weeks ago, council did pass a majority the third emergency resolution. In that resolution, council basically said that the use of face shields alone was not an efficient way of eliminating or addressing the spread of the COVID-19 virus. So we included that language in that emergency resolution. There were some people in the public who said, wait a minute, if I have a face shield, because the governor in his declaration, as you know, on the 29th of July, basically allowed for either face shields or masking to be used. We took a more stringent approach based on the information you gave us, to not go that way. Your email that you sent us yesterday basically adds in another whereas clause to permit face shields to be used when there is a, I'm sorry, I just lost my point. When there is an illness that the person cannot, preventing the person from wearing the cloth, a cloth covering. Can you go over that with us real quick?
Yes, and actually I could do that with a health officer directive, like the secretary does a directive when the governor wants clarification and more verbiage in. And it's as the developmental disability people state, or disability, there are very, very few that can't wear a mask that have a bona fide condition.
Right.
And so they said, we just want to make sure that if someone had a bona fide condition, and, for example, a child in school with autism, that it would be allowed if that was a possibility, okay? Or if they ask for a reasonable modification. The ADA Act says that when you have a disability at work, that you and your employer
Right.
and physician talk about what is a reasonable modification. For the COVID, it might be that if they could work in the back and not face the public, that would be a modification, okay? For another one that absolutely that's the only job that they had and they wanted to take the risk, would you allow them to wear a face shield, being full face shield and come below the chin, okay? But I think they were just concerned that if you were enforcing it, you would do it according to ADA. And I said, yes, of course we would. And if you didn't want to put it in the resolution, I could put it in a health officer directive, depending on what you pass.
Right. Okay. So we can either, and we're going to take that matter up next. We can either include it in the resolution, or we can, you'll pass it by your own health officer ordinance. Well, if you had some time to hang around with us, we are going to take up the introduction of this, some changes to the emergency resolution. Now, I know I sent these over to you beforehand to take a look at them. One dealing with allowing alcohol to be served at the bar area with temperature checks. And it wasn't mandatory, but in conversation that I had with a couple business owners here, Doug Kirby across the street at Washington Pub, also Chris Arabi, and Terry Knob, is it? No, Terry Knob, down at Foxy's. They were expressing some concern over not allowing patrons to be served alcohol at the bar area. And I certainly understand their concern there. What my concern, and I expressed with them, is that short 2-foot span between that patron and that bartender, where there could be a possible transmission. So we basically had some discussion. They were agreeing to have their bartenders go ahead and temperature check those patrons at the bar before serving them, just to make sure nobody came in there with an elevated temperature. Not so much the people back in the tables, but just the people up there at the bar that are right in front of that bartender. You care to comment on that?
No problem with that, because it had 6 feet apart.
And the students. He's done a great job. But if I may add, I went over there and met with Doug Kirby. The place looked well. I mean, I'm sure you've been in there as well. The stools were 6 foot apart. The tables were blocked off, every other one. So what he's done over there, I really got to give my hats off to him. And likewise with Terry down at Foxy's. So they've done their part. I think allowing them to do this with the temperature checks at the bar would give them that additional freedom. Again, I don't want to be standing here in November, neither do you, talking about shutting down restaurants again. So
Yeah,
if they
I
can-
didn't see it as a big problem.
Yeah.
They had also come to me and say, you mean one can sit at a bar and eat a hamburger and the other one and have a Coke,
Yeah.
but the one that's sitting at the table. So as long as they're 6 feet apart, that's a,
Right. And we talked about that too, and about, you know, the effects on the alcohol, and people sometimes get a little bit
Yes.
more, they get a little bit more loose when it comes to drinking alcohol than they would with a burger and a Coke. So we had a good conversation about that. Okay, so that's going to be in the introduction, and just want to give you a chance to comment on that before we introduce. Okay. Anything more from Dr. Wadley?
So, Dr. Wadley, this is Frank DeVillio for those at home. I would like to thank you. Last week I submitted paperwork to do a permit for an outdoor event on Sunday for a fundraiser. And it was my opportunity to see what the whole process was like, to go through it and really sit down and think, what would it take for me to hold a safe event that I would want to go to, that I would want to invite my friends and family to come to make sure it was safe. Everybody at the health department was great to work with. Planning and zoning was excellent to work with. The first thing I saw when I was completing the paperwork was the line at the very bottom that said, please give us 30 days with this paperwork. And I instantly felt bad that we've just dumped all of this on the planning and zoning and your department, trying to figure out what a permit would look like and how this would work. That's the only reason that I'm going to go for lower price as opposed to this one for now, because I do want to work with you and try to come up with good guidance for those smaller gatherings. I don't think listing where the wellhead is, where the septic is, and where the parking is does anything to make the event healthier, but it definitely delays the process and causes extra work that somebody has to look at a site plan to see that. So I think that Tony has created some signs that I believe Cassandra reached out and asked him to do, with just the basic things, the face shields, the face coverings, the social distancing, those main important things that I would love to have listed at an event with a person's name and contact. So you could say, whoop, Jim invited us, here's Jim, Jim's the one holding us responsible, just as a bartender does at a bar with tip certification. So my goal is that we can hopefully come up with a one-page sheet that will be posted at events, but for now, I just can't come up with that cap and size yet, so I'm not there. But I greatly appreciate everybody working to make sure the events are safe and healthy.
we've had some good reports from some of the events that they've had, calling back and saying it went really well, had no problem. People were wearing masks. They were keeping their distance and all as well as possible. So good feedback from some of the events that we've had.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wadley. You can hang around if you choose to. If not, you can hit for the doors. I said thank you, Dr. Wadley, for your presentation. You can hang around if you want to, or hit for the doors. It's up to you. So I would like you to stay, but okay. Thank you. Okay, Council, next on the agenda is introduction of the administrative resolution. I just alluded to it, Dr. Wadley. Council did pass this third resolution at our last meeting. Since that time, I was able to have a conversation with some local business owners regarding serving alcohol at the bar. And let me say, first of all, they've done a great job. Before I have Madam Secretary read the title of this, they've done a good job at doing their 6-foot distancing at the bar, closing off every other table, wiping down tables after every meal, even doing some decon, from what I understand, doing temperature checks of all their employees coming in. The one concern that I had was that patron at the bar drinking not being temperature checked, or even eating not being temperature checked because of that close proximity to the bartender. They did agree that they would be able to do that and go and get those temperature checks. I did speak with Clay Stamp regarding providing the temperature check guns for any restaurant who did not have that or needed a second one. We can certainly provide that to them. With that being said, I offer up these amendments to this. Madam Secretary, would you please read the title of the resolution?
Third, emergency resolution, COVID-19 enforcement, superseding and replacing the emergency resolution on COVID-19 enforcement adopted by the Talbot County Council on August 11th, 2020, requiring all persons in Talbot County to comply with the governor's executive order on face coverings and retail establishments issued on July 29th, 2020, except that in Talbot County, the use of face shields shall not be sufficient to satisfy the face covering requirement in the governor's order, prohibiting congregating in bar areas and recommending temperature checks, requiring the submission and review of a COVID-19 safety plan for certain large outdoor gatherings, establishing civil monetary fines for violations of this third emergency resolution, and authorizing the Talbot County Health Department and the Talbot County Office of Code Enforcement to enforce the requirements herein.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, you all should have gotten a copy of these changes. They are listed in green. We did talk about the face covering provision that Dr. Wadley also has made mention of as well. But the on page 2, what I wanted to bring to your attention was the temperature check, a recommended temperature check at bars inside of those restaurants, so that if patrons are there at the bar, it would allow the owners to get a temperature check just to make sure that no one is coming into the bar with an elevated temperature and sitting at that close proximity with that bartender. There was also a change in here dealing with churches. There was I'm trying to find what page that's on, Mr. Cooper Smith. Oh, on page
like
number
page-
3, page
yeah.
3. There was a question whether or not the outdoor gathering applied to churches, which it certainly did not. It was not even in our realm of thinking when we drafted this. So to clear that up, on page 3, you would see that for social, community, recreational, leisure purposes, for the avoidance of doubt, this section does not apply to spiritual or religious services. So church services that are held outdoors are not subject to this. Only those special events, drive-through movie theaters, outdoor concerts, those were the items that we were looking at dealing with when it comes to special events and whether or not they would need a temporary use certificate. Did I miss anything else? I believe that's all we had. Okay. So offer those changes up for any dialogue. Okay. Hearing no dialogue, I would just need a motion to accept the changes. Great. Okay. If there's no motion, the changes are not accepted. Okay. So the change.
You need. I'm sorry.
I know.
A little hard to hear.
There's a lot of noise out there.
You need a motion to move the revised.
Yes,
resolution
I need a
forward.
motion to move the revised resolution as changed forward, and yes.
I so move.
Okay. Motion is made by Mr. Lesher. Is there a second on the revised changes to the third resolution? No. Hearing no second, then those changes do not go through. So we're back with the resolution as it stands. Dr. Wadley, I think that's all we have for you.
I think it'd be good if you stayed for the next one.
Yeah.
The enforcement resolution.
And next on the agenda is another resolution. This is an enforcement resolution. Madam Secretary, would you read the title?
Enforcement Resolution COVID-19 recitals. How much do you want me to read?
This is entered by Mrs. Price. Mr. Price, do you have anything to say on this?
Sure. Why doesn't Mrs. Moran go ahead and read the recitals, because the whereas clauses are very different, at least the first 3 or 4.
She's asking you to read the first 3 as clauses.
Whereas the state of Maryland and Talbot County are seeing a dramatic decrease in the positivity number of COVID-19 cases, our negative rate has consistently been above 95%, and few individuals have been hospitalized. And whereas Talbot County's 7-day positivity rate has dropped from 7.68% on July 13th to a range of 2% to 2.5% on average, a decrease of approximately 70%, which is below the statewide average of approximately 3.3% as of August 20th. And whereas Talbot County's active rate is only 0.17% of the entire 37,000 population of Talbot County.
Was that what you wanted her to read, Mrs. Price?
That works, and obviously, you know, we have had a little blip with the family of 11 that Dr. Wadley has already explained to us, so I'm sure that will smooth out over the next few days, but you know, the good news is that the positivity rates all across the state are decreasing, and Talbot County is in line with the state. So I just felt it was important just to follow the state of Maryland's executive order. They've got a big team of people who have, you know, more information. We appreciate everything Dr. Wadley does, no doubt. And I do want to give her kudos for the extra information that she's including in her daily emails to us. That's very, very helpful. But I wanted to share, you know, the good news today and show that we could just enforce exactly what the state of Maryland is doing.
Okay. Any other comments?
This is Councilman DeVillio. So again, I'm going to reiterate what I said to Dr. Wadley a few minutes ago. After submitting an application for an outdoor gathering, I realized that permitting process it wasn't helpful to making it a safe event, and it also burdened an already overly worked department. So I am for this piece of legislation. I appreciate Mrs. Price for putting this together with Mr. Cooper Smith and reviewing it with us. It reduces the monetary fines maximum down from 1,000 down to 500. And it also gets rid of the gathering at the bars and takes away the legislation about the outdoor events. My goal is, as I said to Dr. Wadley, is to come up with ideas that we can pass out to those individuals who would like to have small gatherings with direction. It'll be uniform direction that's given to those groups: social distance tables, social distance individuals, wearing the mask when you go through the food, or things like that. Things that are very easy that will make all small events healthy and safe without having to go through a permitting process of submitting a site plan that shows where your well, your septic, and the parking is. That just doesn't help with COVID-19 in any way. So I'm for this short piece of legislation and prepared to vote for it on it tonight. And I will also continue. Again, Councilman DeVillio. So on this line of thought, I've also invited in Chop Tank Health and the Shore United Health for the next meeting, and I've reached out to Dr. Griffith for the following meeting. So my intention is to keep this COVID-19 sort of rolling so that we're providing the information every other meeting, every other meeting to the public on the health pandemic as well as the economic impacts, which is, I think this was a perfect meeting to show that by having both Cassandra here talking about the money that's available, talking about the midshore behavioral health, that's also an issue that's going on with COVID-19. There's just a lot of things that are in play right now, and I think this simple piece of legislation, after hearing from the towns of Oxford and St. Michael's, cleans up a lot of things.
My only concern with this is that it strips away all the recommendation to Dr. Wadley, speaking about bringing Dr. Wadley in front of us regarding gatherings that she wanted to see us kind of implement. So I think it kind of really opens the doors to. I'm a bit troubled by it. I think it could open us up to further infection because we're not really following the guidance of our health officer. But okay. Anyway.
With that, would you like a motion?
Anything further?
Do you
Yeah,
like a
I will need a motion on this recommendation.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Callahan. Any further comment? Hearing none, Madam Secretary,
Pack.
call your roll. You had a comment? I'm sorry, Pete, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
No.
Mr. Pack, I share your concern in particular about we're taking all the teeth
Well, you're
out
taking
of
everything away from the
out of
health officer
enforcement
recommendation,
mechanism
so,
here.
yeah, it's just,
Particularly when it comes to group gatherings.
yeah. That's okay. Let's, we'll
The fines are still
cross our
included.
fingers and just hope we get through it.
I'm not sure what teeth we've taken out. What teeth have we removed?
We'll just hope we get through it. Cross our fingers. Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
No.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Nay.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Okay. So we're back at the mercy. Okay. We are now at 8 o'clock. We have several public matters for public hearing. This is going to be somewhat difficult, but let me go ahead and read these numbers out again for anyone who wants to call in for the public hearing. You can call using the number 415-655-0002, 855-797-9485. That's a toll-free number. You're going to also have to enter an access code, which is 160-161-5476. You can also participate via WebEx events. That's at talbotcounty.webex.com/Talbot County /onstage. The event number you're going to use again is 160-161-5476. The password you're going to use is 082520. Okay? And let's move on to our first public hearing. This is regarding Region 2 wastewater treatment plant. Madam Secretary, would you mind reading the title of that, please?
Proposed federal funding assistance projects from the U.S.D.A. for planning and construction of the following projects for Talbot County: St. Michael's Region 2 wastewater treatment plant, equipment upgrades, sludge management improvements, and belt filter press replacement. Talbot County Resolution 235, properties comprising the subdivisions of Averly, Doncaster, North Bend, The Rest, and Arcadia Shores, as well as certain subdivided Tier 3C areas along Royal Oak Road, Blueberry Acres Road, Deepwater Point Road, Long Haul Road, Yacht Club Road, and Rolls Range Road, sewer extension, public sewer connection project. And Talbot County Resolution 250, properties comprising certain parcels of land in the villages of Bosman and Nevitt designated as Tier 3B, and certain parcels of land designated as Tier 3C, sewer extension, public sewer connection project.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Clark, do you wish to be heard on either of these? Sure.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. The Bell Filter Press project is an approved capital project, and that project cost is $550,000. The Resolution 235 project, that's also an approved capital project. That roughly has about a $9.6 million price tag, but that also includes the bay restoration funds that are grants. And then for the Resolution 250, that project is basically $22.3 to $23 million, but that's the total project cost, and it does not, I mean, that also includes bay restoration grant funding as well. So we are looking at applying for funds through rural development for these projects, and that's what we're doing here tonight.
Thank you, Ray. Who am I turning to for the callers? Is that you, Jess?
Yes, we have no callers or nobody wishing to make any public comment.
You're kidding. Okay. Okay. If there are no callers or no one on WebEx either, you're looking at both of those platforms. I don't want to go forward and someone said they were on WebEx and we didn't go to WebEx. And
We have currently 4 participants. One is a journalist and the other 3 are staff members.
okay. I've asked, right? All right. Okay. Going to close the public hearing on these 3 matters. As these are capital projects, and these are also resolutions that can be moved forward to vote tonight. The chair will entertain a motion on either or all of these items.
Mr. Peck, I'll move the approval of all 3.
Mr. Lesher is making a motion to move all 3 to vote tonight. Is there a
DeVillio, second.
Seconded by Mr. DeVillio. Any further comment or discussion on these items, what they mean, what they stand for? As I said before, is there any further comment or question of Mr. Clark on these items before I call for the final vote?
Let me just give some kudos to Mr. Clark for always being able to go out and find grant funds to do really good things for Talbot County, and this is no exception. He's always been really great at that, and so I just want to thank Mr. Clark for that.
Yes, we are. You know, Mr. Clark is he's a grant funding bloodhound. Madam Secretary, would you please call your roll?
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Okay, that's it. All right, all these matters passed. Mr. Clark, thank you very much. Presentation on the Talbot County Diversity Training Report. Mr. Hollis just stepped out. Ms. Morris, I don't know whether you have that report in front of you or...
I do not, Mr. Peck. If we
Okay.
could wait till Mr. Hollis comes
Yeah, we
back.
also have County Manager also right behind that. Yes, please.
Council instructed me to go back and look at the last fiscal year for diversity training. That would be July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. The report is as follows. Council received it 30 days from the date of enactment of your resolution is required. It's now being permitted in a synopsis form to the public. October 2019, employees from the Department of Emergency Services attended cultural competency training with Dr. Mercedes Avila. January of 20, department heads and supervisors, approximately 30, attended cultural competence workshop with Matthew Peters and Dr. Lorelli Solano from Chesapeake Multicultural Resource Center. Talbot County Department of Corrections hired 8 new correctional officers, all of which are required when they go through the academy to receive 7 hours of mandated and tested training entitled Cross-Cultural Relations. Department of Corrections also held in-service training for 33-plus employees as mandated annually. That coursework is required by the Correctional Training Commission, and it concerns the issue again of cultural diversity. Talbot County Sheriff's Office conducted training as well regarding implicit bias training, human relationship training, fair and impartial policing, cultural diversity, and bias incident reporting. Those are required for new officers going through their training in the academy. Sheriff Gamble's also added additional training to the Sheriff's Office, including cultural competency training. Going forward for the next fiscal year, we are looking at partnering with Talbot Family Network to offer courageous conversations beyond diversity. It's been held by the Talbot County Public Schools in the past years. That training would be mandated for all department heads. It requires a full 2-day training commitment. County government will also be considering other programs offered through the Talbot Family Network, including addressing systemic racism and conversations on race. The cultural competence workshop I mentioned that had been given to all the department heads and supervisors will now be given to all employees system-wide from the Chesapeake Multicultural Resource Center. And the Director of Human Resources and myself will be working to select certain training videos dealing with cultural diversity that employees can watch as their schedule permits, as opposed to doing system-wide training. And that concludes the report for the last fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Hollis. Any questions of Mr. Hollis on the first ever diversity training report to the Talbot County Council? Any questions or
Mr.
comments?
Pack, I just want to thank the county manager for the robust efforts that have already been undertaken and are now documented before us. Clearly, we still have some distance to go if our workforce is to reflect the makeup of Talbot County, particularly in the ranks of management. But documenting steps taken is important to continuing this best practice and advancing our county government. So. Many thanks to the county manager and his staff for advancing this.
And just as our council is made up of diverse individuals, younger, different ages, different races, different religions, so is the community, and that's why it's important that we do focus on this and make sure that we are inclusive. Mr. Pack, I would like to, I believe Talbot County Schools also has a diversity program that they work on as well for themselves. And I think that might be another group that we could get in front of or hear from to see what things that they've done.
I'm not familiar. Maybe they do. I know they've done courageous conversations on a number of occasions. With,
it's a courageous conversations program that I just mentioned is something for us to focus on for this fiscal year.
Yeah, I know they do that one. That's the only one I know. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Hollis, I will say, again, echoing what Mr. Lesher just said, thank you very much for putting this report together. I don't think it was a hard lift, as a lot of the diversity and inclusion activities were already, or trainings were already being sought after, and that's due to just the leadership that you have you're projected during your tenure here in the county to make sure that you're always looking for ways to expand the employees' ability to work in a diverse environment, seeing that we have a very diverse community and it's getting diverse each and every day. You can see that by the number of Spanish-speaking students that are in our schools right now. If you look back 10, 15 years ago, you certainly did not have the numbers that you have in our school system that you have now. So being able to have these trainings on diversity and inclusion allow our workforce to also stay up to date on how it is important to understand other people's backgrounds and cultures and through a working relationship. Also, it also is a good way for us to also look at our own implicit bias, which we all have. We all have those biases. It is when we do not do a complete self-assessment and recognize those biases that we run into trouble, because then they tend to cloud our judgment and our decision-making when we're speaking to or about other persons. So Again, thank you for putting this together. This will be an annual report that will come forward to councils, this council and future councils, so that we can see what trainings have been accomplished and what trainings are up to date. I would like to be included in any trainings that you do offer to the staff. I certainly would like to participate myself, to sit in on those trainings and to be a part of the discussion. So once you get these trainings set up, just please let me know, and I hope to have time in my schedule to sit in. I think it has to start from the head down, and I think as a member of this council, I need to set the example and be there in the room when these trainings are posted.
So I would certainly make sure that all council members are invited to any subsequent training. I want to thank you all for the positive remarks. I want to tell you that they are questioned in my mind for one reason. If you look at our diversity of our workforce, it does to a large extent reflect our population, but when you look at mid and upper management, it does not. And that is something that I'm committed to looking at to do the best we can to make sure it becomes more reflective. And it's not something that we should lose sight of simply because we've done diversity training across the board. It needs to go farther than that in terms of making sure that we have mid-managers and upper management that looks like our community as much as anything else we do.
Very well said, Mr. Hollis, very well said. I don't think we need to take a vote on accept another report, just to acknowledge that the report has been given to council. Madam Secretary, you have that record, and we will accept that report into the official record for the council. Council, next on your agenda is the county manager's report. We have several items here, so Mr. Hollis, I'm going to turn it over to you.
We're going to start with the County Engineer Council. We're requesting approval to fund a request to hire a consultant to update the county's comprehensive water and sewer plan. Funding is approved in the budget for this project. As you know, we need to come back to you because of monetary concerns before we move ahead with these projects. Ray, do you want to say anything additional? It certainly is overdue.
It is overdue, and I guess the council, in drafting the scope of work, I guess, we understand we're in a pandemic, and I think, in the past, we've talked with the council or have had projects that we bid out. The engineering community and the professional community likes a quality-based bid, and I know the council prefers, let's say, a low bid process. It'll take us a little more time to develop a more detailed scope to do it on a low bid. But we can do that if that's the prerogative of the council.
Well, as Ms. Hollis said, this is long overdue. We've been talking about this update to the comprehensive water sewer plan, I know a good 3-4 years now, if not more. So
it's also been pointed out by the state on numerous occasions that we are far behind and it needs to be addressed.
So whoever you can get for whatever dollars that we have to get them, let's go ahead and get it done. We're behind on this thing. Do we need a vote on that, Mr. Hollis? Okay, Madam Secretary, would you please call your vote on the, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Public Works for us, this is a RFP for the comprehensive water and sewer plan.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher? Ms. Price?
Aye.
Thank you.
Council, while we're waiting for the airport manager, let's do board appointments. The Historic Preservation Commission requesting the reappointment of Karen Footner and Janice Pfeiffer to that body.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Lesher.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Callahan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, call your roll in the appointments.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Public Works Advisory Board requesting the reappointment of Ed Schlichter to that body.
Move for the approval.
Moved by Mr. Lesher.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Callahan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call your roll in the appointment.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Council, if we can have the airport manager come up, we have a series of asks for you all
Okay.
for approvals. So, Micah, I'm going to start with council's approval request to apply for and accept grant funding from the Maryland Aviation Administration for the pavement maintenance contract. Total project's $105,608, $90,536 for the construction, $15,072 for engineering and construction with AECom services. MAA share, Maryland Aviation Administration, is $67,902. Our share is $37,706.
Nope, nothing to add. Those three bullets that we have, Andy, are all packaged together. So, in a nutshell, we budgeted $50,000 to do this entire project, and it comes in well below the budget. So we appreciate that.
Okay, great. It's always good news. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. DeVillio.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lesher. Any further comment? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
The next request is from the airport for approval of the airport consultant AECom's price proposal for the Taxiway B pavement maintenance professional engineering services in the amount of $15,072.
Okay. Is there anything for you, Mike?
No, just it's included in that $37,000.
Right, okay. So it's nothing additional. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
By Mr. DeVillio.
Second.
Second by Mr. Callahan, right? There's nothing further. Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Requesting your approval, council, to award bid 20-07 and change order number 1. And that bid was the request for proposals, Taxiway B pavement maintenance, Easton Newnham Field Airport, Talbot County, Maryland. Asking to the low bidder, REMAC Incorporated, in the amount of $90,536. 3 bids were received.
Okay. Is there a motion on bid 2007?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Callahan.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeVillio. Anything further? And the one change order, I might add. Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
There's 2005. Alder, did we do that already? Reese?
Nope, we're right there now, sir.
Oh, right, okay.
We're requesting your approval to award bid 20-05, request for proposals, Reese's Landing reconstruction, Talbot County Parks and Recreation, Talbot County, Maryland, to the low bidder, Bridges Site and Utilities, in the amount of $86,677.
Okay.
6 bids total were received.
Chair, entertain a motion on 2005.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. DeVillio.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Callahan. Anything further? Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Okay.
And council, just a few more that were added. Thank you, Mr. Lesher, to your agenda. Requesting your approval for a letter of support for Habitat for Humanity Chop Tank. They are applying for Maryland Affordable Housing Trust Grant. No county dollars involved.
Okay, letter for Habitat for Humanity for the trust fund,
Move to authorize the letter of support.
Second.
made by Mr. Lesher, second by Mr. DeVillio. Anything more? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Requesting your approval retroactively for emergency procurement of new vacuum pumps for Martingham wastewater treatment system. It's a cost of $80,000. One of those pumps failed completely, so I did give approval for the repair work.
Okay. Approval for, is it $80,000 on a pump? $80,000 for vacuum pump for the Martingham station.
Mr. Hollis, I presume that this is paid for out of the Region 2 Enterprise Fund?
Yes, sir. All by the Martingham system. Yes, sir.
Sanitation fund, okay.
I'll move to approve.
Second moved by Mr. Lesher, second by Mr. DeVillio. Anything further? Madam Secretary, please call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
And
Okay.
council, finally, a project near and dear to my heart, it's the Early Head Start project that you all have funded in your capital budget. That funding was in the amount of $1.6 million, $800,000 to come out of Community Development Block Grant. Unfortunately, that program is not accepting new applications now. All that money has been diverted to COVID-19 recovery efforts. So what we need to do, as you know, the Dobson building is being demolished. 4 of those rooms are being saved for this purpose. We need to go ahead and secure that space by putting up a wall. That cost is $242,333. We did explain to you during the budgeting process, this may be where we end up initially, but we will actively pursue a block grant once that money becomes available to actually make those classrooms usable. So for tonight, I'm asking to authorize Whiting Turner to build that wall in the amount of $242,333 using already approved capital money.
Would this be an add-on to their existing contract there?
I believe it would be an amendment to it, but that would be up to the Board of Education.
Okay.
So, question, so I'm assuming it's a permanent wall.
Correct. It would not come down.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Callahan,
Second.
second by Mr. DeVillio. So no further questions. Madam Secretary, call your roll.
Mr. Pack?
Aye.
Mr. DeVillio?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
And council, just an announcement for yourself and the public. County offices will be closed on Monday, September 7th for the Labor Day holiday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollis. Appreciate your report and all that you're doing to promote diversity in Talbot County. Next on the agenda, Mr. Cooper Smith, there's a discussion for open meetings.
So that's actually me.
Okay.
And that, I was just going on the record from the previous meeting, I had put it on that agenda, was the conference call that we had at Planning and Zoning between yourself, Chuck, and myself. I hope that it was just a mistake, but it was happened during rough times, obviously, busy times, but it happened in front of some of the county staff, and I just felt the need that it should be on the record.
Okay. Public comment, Ms. Marsh, you have anything for public comment?
Mr. Pack, we've had one new caller join us. Caller, if you would like to make public comments, please press *3, and it will be indicated that you'd like to speak. Caller, go ahead, please identify your name.
Hi, my name is Henry Herr. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi. So I'm obviously a little upset about the vote that happened last week, and there's obviously a lot of vocal opposition going on tonight, and obviously will continue. I can't say that I'm surprised, but the fact that there was stated that a vote shouldn't be taken on something like this because of COVID, while members on this council are voting not to follow the health department's or health officer's guidelines for COVID, seems a little hypocritical. There's also another personal insult to me from Miss Laura Price, saying that no one would pay for the removal of the monument when I've come before you multiple times, emailed you multiple times, telling you I will pay for everything. And this was before George Floyd. The first time I started speaking to you was in October. If you want to vote on something, please at least state the facts that you don't want the statue to come down, not that it can't be paid for by private citizens that have already come forward multiple times that is contrary to the fact. Other than that, I look forward to talking to you guys more often, because this is not acceptable what happened, and look forward to more distractions during your meeting. Thanks.
No other callers, Mr. Pack.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing at this time. And I'll now turn it over now to council comment. Ms. Price, do you have any comments? Is she still online?
I'm still here.
Okay, any comments?
Not this evening.
Okay. Mr. Lesher, any comments from you, sir?
I have nothing additional.
Okay. Mr. Villio, any comments from you?
Just briefly, I would like to thank, again, the Planning and Zoning and the Health Office for helping me get the permit and everything going for the fundraiser on Sunday, which was for Critchlow-Atkins. We had half the number of participants come out as previous years, but we ended up raising much more money. So I greatly appreciate those in the community who are standing up to help out and fund Critchlow-Atkins Child Care Center, which is the daycare center that's attached to all the schools in Talbot County, most of the schools in Talbot County, with the hope that they can expand service into White Marsh, where the 2 portable classrooms are no longer needed for classrooms. That would be an excellent opportunity for them to grow into that. So I'd like to thank Mr. Callahan for coming out and participating in and donating to it, and all of the members of the community who came out and rallied behind it to give them support. Thank you.
Ms. Callahan, any comments from you?
Oh, the only comment I have, Mr. President, if there's opportunities where the President of the Council is taking care of remarks and stuff on a radio station and doing comments, I'd really appreciate that you give us, some of the council, the respect of when there's a very, very important day next Tuesday that means a lot to all of us when it comes to Frederick Douglass, and you sort of bashed us a little bit, and I really didn't appreciate that. So I really, really would like you to if you have something to say to us, just call me, okay, and voice your frustration. I know you didn't frustration, but it was very, very disrespectful to us.
Well, Mr. Callahan, I was just speaking from, the sense that I certainly appreciate your comments, and I did ask to speak with you yesterday after the meeting we had with Mayor Willie the other day, if you remember, and you said you were going to give me a call back, and I hadn't heard from you. But there is a special event coming up, which is the unveiling of the Frederick Douglass plaques. That will take place on September the 1st on Lewistown Road. Of course, we all know Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist. He fought against slavery. I think he fought against everything that the Talbot Boy statue stands for. So I guess you're referring to my comments about that particular event. Okay. All right. Again, I'm not going to go into all that right now. We can certainly sit down and talk about it when it comes to what we're saying and what we're doing. We can't say we can't bring the health officer here in front of us to give a report, but at the same time pass an emergency declaration that tears out everything that the health officer asked us to do. That you're wasting her time.
I'm not talking about the health department. I'm not talking about the health department.
I know
okay.
that. But again, I'm speaking about what we're saying and what we're doing.
Yeah, I understand.
So we'll talk more about it. I think that we have some more to talk about when it comes to that. But the event in September is not open to the public, but I just want to make people aware that the unveiling of those interpretive signage will take place. I want to really give my hat off to Cassandra Vanhooser and also to Preston Pepper from our Parks and Recs. They have really been spearheading this effort, working with our committee, which includes Dell Green, also includes Kenneth Morris, who is the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, as well as Priscilla Morris, who's also Talbot County. Her descendants are also on the Talbot Boy statue up front. And other people here in the county, also Mr. Hollis is also on that committee. So we want to just thank Cassandra and Preston for all that they've done, getting that group together, getting these signage in place at the park on the Tuckahoe. One thing that we can claim that no other Frederick Douglass park can claim, either in New York or overseas in Ireland or anywhere else, they can't claim that they have a Frederick Douglass park on the Tuckahoe. They may have a Frederick Douglass park, but not on the Tuckahoe. So having that distinction, I think, put us a bit ahead of the other parks that honor Frederick Douglass, rightfully so. But our distinction, having it here in Talbot County, speaks volumes. So the Lieutenant Governor will be here with us on that day, on the 1st. as well as Secretary of Commerce and Secretary of DNR will also be with us as well on that day. So after the unveiling, the park will then be open to the public. I believe that's going to be around noontime or a little while after that. I don't have the exact date when it'll be open for the exact time when it'll be open to the public, but the 10 o'clock program is not open to the public. But after that program ends, it will then become open to the public.
And Mr. Peck, I would just add, it's not open to the public because we went through the permitting processes, Councilman Dilley said about COVID concerns, social distancing, and we were trying to limit the number of people in the event.
Right, and for good reason. And Dr. Wadley also, when it comes to public gatherings, wanted to make sure we're keeping people safe. So we certainly understand why we had to go through that process. Okay, that's all I have on that. The County Council's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, September the 8th beginning at 6 p.m. here in the Bradley Meeting Room. The council will be convening an open session at 4:30 p.m. and immediately adjourning in closed session to discuss real estate, legal, and personal matters as listed on the statement for closing that meeting. Therefore, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene as noted?
So move.
Thank you. Anything more from you, Madam Secretary? All right, we're adjourned.